Good afternoon, ladies and gents. By way of introduction, my name is Adam Flynn. I am the sub-franchisor for the Biggin and Scott Network and also the co-founder of Trained by Miyagi. I'm going to talk today about two topics that I think are fairly important in the real estate space post the pandemic and COVID. Now, I've noticed that a lot of agents in the current climate, and it was based on necessity, don't get me wrong, but a lot of agents who were during the pandemic having to do private inspections as opposed to open for inspections because of government regulations, and essentially couldn't do auctions and essentially just put a price on a property, took a buyer through, and if the buyer paid that price, the vendor would sell and the buyer would buy, and that was a deal done. So a lot of agents actually had some very, very good success during the pandemic and during the restrictions via running that strategy. And what I've actually seen is a lot of agents and agencies that are out there have actually adopted that now, even though the restrictions are easing. So it's interesting. Human nature is one whereby if somebody does something and they get in the habit of doing it and it gets results, they tend to just think, well, if it's not broken, then don't fix it. I want to touch on these two topics. I do think they are very, very important. The first one, I was speaking to a vendor recently, and they were talking to another agent who said, oh, no, we don't need to do open for inspections and things of that nature. So the reality is that if you're trying to sell anything, whether it's a car, it's a house, it's a fridge, whatever it is, the only way, in my belief, that you can be guaranteed you've got the highest possible price is when you've got buyers under competition. Okay, so if you're taking a buyer through, and once again, when it was a necessity, I get it, you had to do it. But now that restrictions are easing up, I'm not convinced that just taking one buyer through a property is going to assure that the vendor gets the highest possible price. When you take a buyer through a property individually, and it can be a great property, a property that if it went to the marketplace, it'd be high in demand. The reality is, when the buyer says to the agent, is there any other interest or is there much interest on the property? Even if the agent says yes, the reality is the buyer is going to think, well, that's just agent talk because they haven't seen the competition. Now, the fear of loss is bigger than the desire of gain. I've said it a number of times. Let's now flip that around. And let's say you've got a buyer going through an open for inspection and they see 25 or 30 other people there at the open for inspection, and the agent and the buyer then have a conversation. The buyer says, well, is there much interest in the home? Well, then the conversation is clear. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you saw the 30 other people there at the open for inspection. Clearly, there is a lot of interest in this home. So the reality is you're going to be making an offer under the strength of competition, so you're going to have to put your best foot forward first. The whole conversation changes. So I think that as a vendor, firstly, if you are in the market and have an agent that might be suggesting to you, oh, let's just get the buyer through and let's get a deal done. Sure, it's easy, but is it going to get you the best result? I don't believe it is. So as restrictions ease up, just be mindful that when you're selling such a valuable asset, you've got one opportunity to make sure that you do it correctly. Now, point two is in regards to fixed prices. A lot of these transactions that have taken place have been simply a scenario whereby the agent has said to the buyer, this is the price. The buyer has gone through by themselves, private inspection, has seen the property and said, I'll pay that price, and a deal has been done. Now, the reality is, let's say, for example, you put a property on the market for $1 million, okay? Now, there's no way on earth, if a buyer, even if they see value in the property at $1.2 or $1.3 million, that they're going to go through a private inspection with a fixed price of $1 million and go, okay, well, I'll pay 1.3. Okay. Now, whenever you're putting a property to the market and doing it correctly, doing a proper marketing campaign, within reason, the only way I believe that you can actually affect the selling price within reason is if you price the property too high in the first place and scare all the competition off with the initial starting point. Now, I'm not suggesting you put a property in the market for $10,000 and have 100,000 people try and inspect the property in the first week, and it goes 100, 200, 300, 400, etc. You know, you need to be strategic in regards to the way you place the pricing. But once again, it's all about creating competition. So having a fixed price on a property, as once again restrictions ease up, I do believe you are putting a ceiling on where the property can go from a price point of view. So when you are talking to your agent, now that once again things are easing up, and you know, auctions are a good strategy in regards to creating competition, price ranges are a good strategy in regards to creating competition, just be mindful of listening to what these agents are saying who might be suggesting those strategies, as opposed to agents who might just want a quick sale, an easy sale, and it might be all comfortable, but once again, when the dust clears and you look back on the selling experience, you need to be able to ask yourself, am I 100% confident I've got the highest possible price for such a valuable asset? Because once the contract has signed, you don't get a second chance at it. So it's really important that it's done correctly, and I can assure you that as in the Victorian market anyway, the market is starting to heat up again. We're getting a lot more buyers coming through. You know, there's good momentum, there's confidence back in the marketplace. So if you are speaking to those agents who might be saying, let's just get a buyer through, let's get a deal done, let's get it all, you know, over quickly, the market's terrible, this and that is not the reality of what's actually happening in the marketplace. So if you do need any help or advice, always feel free to shoot me. I'm not actively listing and selling personally, but if you do need any help or advice, always feel free to send me a message via LinkedIn, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you do have. But yeah, the two most important things to take out of this video, one is that private inspections, I don't believe, get the highest possible price. Buyers need to be under the strength of competition, and fear of loss needs to be high for the agent to be able to negotiate on your behalf. And number two, having a fixed price on a property, I do not believe, once again, that is going to assure that you get the highest possible price, because you are putting a ceiling on where the property can go from a price point of view. So anyway, I hope you're all well and you've enjoyed the video. If you need anything at all, just yell out. Cheers.